Is this the final day of the season for the Cleveland Indians? At this point, we're not sure. We do know that if the Tribe is going to stay alive, they have to beat David Wells today. A 20-game winner. Wells will take the mound for the Blue Jays. Toronto with no chance to make the playoffs, but they can't end Cleveland's hopes next on ESPN2. How you doing, everybody? I'm Larry Beal in the studio. We'll be here all day long. Our mission is to bring you every meaningful act in the majors that takes place today. And let us first start by showing you the American League standings. Now, Cleveland needs to win to have, and then have either the A's or the Mariners lose in order to reach the postseason. You see the A's and the M's and where they stand in the West. In the National League, the Mets and the Giants will open the playoffs Wednesday on ESPN. Now, the Braves will meet the Cardinals, but home field has not been determined for that series as of yet. Now let's go out to Cleveland, where it is essentially a do-or-die situation for the Indians. Dave Barnett and Rick Sutcliffe have the call right here.
And Larry, on Fan Appreciation Day, the 454th consecutive sold-out house at Jacobs Field, perfect weather. What the 42,000 plus would really appreciate is just one more Indian win. They have to win to stay in the postseason scenario. Here's plan A. If they win, Seattle loses, Oakland wins the West, and Cleveland at Seattle tomorrow for the wild card playoff. Here's plan B. Again, Cleveland must win. Should Seattle win and Oakland lose, Oakland goes to Tampa and they must lose tomorrow. And then Cleveland plays at Oakland Tuesday for the wild card berth. Plan C, again involving a Cleveland win. If Seattle and Oakland both lose, Oakland at Tampa tomorrow. Should they win, Cleveland at Seattle Tuesday for the wild card. Should Oakland lose at Tampa tomorrow, Cleveland is in. That's their best scenario, 2 Oakland losses, and then there'd be a winner-take-all for the A's and the Mariners to decide the West champion. Dave Barnett, Rick Sutcliffe, my hair hurts thinking about all these possibilities. After 161 games, this many undecided questions. Pretty remarkable.
Well, I think the fans here in Cleveland, though, sense something, because after batting practice, they gave a standing ovation to the Cleveland Indians that they came off the field. It's almost like, thank for the charge, boys, but it may not be enough.
What they have to do today is something they've done only 3 times ever, and that is beat David Wells. 17-3 all-time against Cleveland, 4-0 in the postseason, 2-0 this year with an ERA of just over a half run per game. And the Indians again need a giant killer performance from Steve Woodard.
Well, Steve Woodard has done it in the past. His first start in the big leagues, he beat Roger Clemens. Just 2 starts ago, he beat Pedro Martinez in Boston in a big game. Well, he's got another giant waiting for him this afternoon in David Wells. David Wells last year finished the season with a complete game win against the Cleveland Indians. He wants to do it again today.
So again, the important thing to remember, Cleveland must win to stay in the American League postseason picture. Woodard against Wells coming up from Jacobs Field. The regular season for Jim Fregosi, and he won't be surprised if it's the final day of his stint as the Blue Jays manager. Not a bad record. They're 83-78 coming in. His final day lineup, including Shannon Stewart, Alex Gonzalez, Dave Martinez, and the cleanup hitter, MVP possibility, first baseman Carlos Delgado. The catcher, Darren Fletcher. Tony Batista is at third. Jose Cruz Jr. in center. Todd Green is the DH. Mickey Morandini batting in the 9-hole and playing second base. And Steve Woodard, who came over on July 28th in a big deal with Milwaukee, cost the Indians a great slugger prospect in Richie Sexton, and including the Milwaukee stint this year, 3-10. 2-3 with Cleveland, but all they want, again, Rick, from Steve Woodard is what they've seen from him lately.
Well, and the numbers indicate that that could be tough to happen. Steve Woodard, let's not forget, back in May, he was taken out of the rotation for the Milwaukee Brewers. He was just ineffective, and now he pitches the biggest game of the year for Cleveland. That tells you how thin their starting rotation has been this year.
And we're ready to go, and Woodard throws ball 1 to Shannon Stewart. Stewart, one of the top leadoff seasons in baseball this year. 320 average, 21 home runs, 69 driven in. On the outside corner, says home plate umpire John Hirschbeck. Charlie Williams is at first. Mark Wegner is at second. Jim Reynolds is at third.
And Dave, on the outside corner is where Steve Woodard makes his living, but he has got to keep him honest inside from time to time.
Outside again for the swing and the miss. 1-2.
Their pitching coach for Cleveland, Dick Pohl, told me before the game why he was effective in Boston against Pedro Martinez was simply that. The reason he was not effective in his last start, he just stayed away. He did not show anybody anything in. They got on the outer half of the plate and they beat him.
Chops one down the third base line to Travis Fryman, and the throw pulling Thome off at first, and the speedy Shannon Stewart is aboard.
Speedy is exactly right. Shannon Stewart with the potential to steal 60-70 bases a year. Has not done that this year, but has been effective getting on base and scoring runs. Fryman doing everything he can. A lot of people saying that Travis Fryman deserves Gold Glove consideration for the way he's played defensively this year, but just not able to get the ball there in time to get Stewart.
So with Stewart aboard, Alex Gonzalez, the shortstop, hitting .250, and Woodard will keep close tabs on Stewart.
This is a situation why Gonzalez and Jim Pergozzi has him in the second hole. He can handle the bat. He can advance runners.
In the air to center field, Lofton racing back, looking up, and it is gone. Alex Gonzalez, with his 15th home run of the year, gets the Blue Jays a quick 2-0 lead.
This game does not mean a whole lot to the Toronto Blue Jays other than the opportunity for their ace, David Wells, to win his 21st game. And that's all it took for that clubhouse to be buzzing today. Normally on the last day of the year for a team that's out of it, it's getaway day. All people can think about, get the game over as quick as you can. That's not the case with Toronto this afternoon. They want to win this ball game. They want David Wells to win his 21st.
Boy, that one served up belt high right down the middle. And 5 pitches into the game, Woodard behind 2-0. 15th of the year, 68 and 69 RBIs now for Gonzalez. Doing David Wells a huge favor. Now Dave Martinez at 286 for the year, and he lays a good bunt down the third base line. All Woodard can do is wait for it. It finally does roll foul.
Well, that was all Travis Fryman right there. He's played third base here all year. Steve Woodard just came over a couple of months ago. Doesn't really know the particulars of this infield. But Fryman knows that everything is tailored and tapered to go foul. He was yelling at him the whole way. Let it go, let it go. He knew that Woodard couldn't get Martinez at first, even if he picked it up. So give it a chance to go foul, and the ball eventually did.
0-2 to Martinez, who this year tied a major league mark, playing with his 4th team in one season. Way back when, it started in Tampa for Martinez. May 12th to the Cubs for Mark Guthrie. June 9th to the Rangers. August 5th to the Blue Jays. And in his very first at bat, it happened against Texas. He hit a home run. Strikes out on 3 pitches. The first out of the top of the first for Woodard. And arguably the best defense in baseball behind Woodard today.
Well, just 72 errors on the year. Remarkable. But when you look up the middle, Omar Vizquel, Robbie Alomar, you got Kenny Lofton behind them. But between those two at second base and shortstop, 15 Gold Gloves. That's the most in history by any double play combination. Well, that 15 Gold Gloves will probably soon be 17.
Here's Delgado at 347. That's 4th in the American League. He made a real run at a triple crown, and he's going to just come up short. Tied for 4th in home runs and RBIs. 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts lifetime against Woodard, and not a good start for him here, down 0-2. And you got to feel that had Toronto stayed in the postseason picture, it might be Delgado's MVP award to lose. Hard to see him win it since they are out. A 3-pitch strikeout, the 3rd time in 4 lifetime at bats against Woodard for Delgado.
It's incredible what a couple strikeouts will do to a crowd that was silenced by a 2-run homer by Alex Gonzalez. That's the one hole that is glaring about Carlos Delgado. That high fastball. You lower it about 6 inches, though, and he'll make it a souvenir. But he cannot lay off that high pitch normally.
Darren Fletcher, the 12th pitch by Woodard, the 11th strike. One of those parked deep over the center field wall by Alex Gonzalez. The reason it's 2-0 Blue Jays.
Woodard's, like most starters, much more effective out of the windup. A big guy, 6'4". He likes to get that body, that big leg kick going for him. It's a lot more difficult to do and almost impossible out of the stretch when you have a guy on first base like Shannon Stewart was in the at-bat to Gonzalez. Now, had that bunt stayed fair off the bat of Dave Martinez, he would have found himself in the stretch again, nobody out, and Delgado at home plate. That ball went foul, and it looks like he's gotten his confidence back. He's certainly gotten the crowd back.
Fletcher out of the box, now back in. Crowd rising in anticipation of Woodard striking out the side. They appeal down to third. Jim Reynolds says he did not go. 2-2.
That's Woodard's best pitch right there, that straight changeup. Got the first strikeout on the curveball down in the dirt, the second one on the high fastball, but his out pitch is the one you just saw.
On the right side to Robbie Alomar, and Woodard settles down after the career-high 15th home run of the year, the second of the series by Alex Gonzalez, who has staked David Wells to a 2-0 lead. Scenario that Charlie Manuel and the Indians find themselves in. Their hitting coach from '94 through last year in his first season replacing Mike Hargrove, going for the 90th win of the season. And after 5 straight AL Central titles under Hargrove, best they can hope for with a win today. The wild card. Here's the lineup: Kenny Lofton, Omar Vizquel, Roberto Alomar in the cleanup hole in right field, Manny Ramirez, Fryman batting 5th at 3rd. The DH is David Segui. Jim Thome bats 7th. Sandy Alomar behind the plate, and Hobert Cabrera batting 9th and left. The American League's only 20-game winner, David Wells, the first Blue Jay left-hander to win 20. He and Jimmy Key had the club record, 17 wins, which Wells had last year.
I think even more impressive than the 20 wins is the fact that in his 34 starts, the Toronto Blue Jays are 26-8. So he constantly gives them a chance to win. They want to give him an opportunity for a win today, which would be his 21st.
Jay's also very solid defensively behind Wells.
Alex Gonzalez, if it weren't for his counterpart this afternoon, Omar Vizquel, in most people's eyes would be a Gold Glove candidate at shortstop every year. He's a free agent at the end of this year, and there's talk that he's going to give up on the crowded shortstop situation in the American League, head over to the National League, where maybe he might find himself in an all-star game or two.
Yeah, tough to peek your head about that group of Garcia Parra and Jeter and A-Rod, everybody else in this league. Here's Kenny Lofton stepping in at 276 for the year. 14 home runs, which equals his career high, and 71 driven in.
Imagine that, a first pitch strike from David Wells. This guy has not walked a guy in his last 4 starts.
32 straight innings without a walk. Only 31 in 227 in the 3rd innings.
And that's the fewest walks per 9 inning in the American League. Just a remarkable ability for David Wells to throw everything that he has for a strike.
One and 2 to Lofton, who is one of the few Indians with any history of success at all against Wells. He's 9 of 28 lifetime against him, 321. Vizquel, Robbie Alomar, Fryman, on the other hand, combined, all 3 of those are 1 for 24. So helpful for the Indians if Lofton keeps it going. And he hits it hard to center field. Cruz back, can't get it. One hopper over the wall and a ground rule double on a ball that may well have turned into a triple to lead things off for Lofton.
454 consecutive sellouts here in Cleveland. They were hushed by the 2-run homer off the bat of Alex Gonzalez. They are back on their feet. And I tell you who else might be back is Kenny Lofton in a Cleveland Indian uniform next year. There's an $8 million option that the organization can pick up or not. Well, with that double there to get this team going, a win today, a loss by either Seattle or Oakland, Lofton might get that option picked up.
Omar Vizquel at 289. Just 6 of 44 lifetime against Wells. Lays one down. Lofton easily taking third. Wells, the good fielder, throwing to Morandini, covering at first.
In a game like this, Dave, it becomes so important to have a veteran who can relax and do what he's supposed to do. And that's what Mickey Morandini and David Wells do here. Wells comes up with the ball. That's your first priority. Number 2 is to get your feet set. Number 3, to make a good throw. Look at him there, the nice little hop, timing. All good fielders have a clock. They know when to hurry up. They know when to slow down. David Wells has that, as does Mickey Morandini.
And no matter how he looks, he is quite nimble jumping off the mound when he has to field his position. Ball 1 to Roberto Alomar, a .310 average. 19 home runs, 88 driven in. He has hit in 38 of his last 40 games at a .404 clip. 1-1.
Lofton had to be looking for that curveball with 2 strikes off of David Wells. That is his out pitch. Very difficult to look for that and do anything with it. But to hit the pitch that Lofton did, that might be the game plan for Cleveland.
Through the hole on the left side, and Lofton will come home, and it's 2-1. Boy, it doesn't take Cleveland long at all to respond to the Blue Jays' top of the first.
Combined this year for Omar Vizquel, Robbie Alomar, and Travis Fryman, 1 for 24 off of David Wells. Well, they've already got 1 hit this afternoon. It was Vizquel that advanced the runner to third base, not giving himself up. Omar trying to bunt for a base hit. Got him to third, picked up the easy RBI for Alomar. Also got himself on base.
89th RBI, and it makes for an 18-game hitting streak for Alomar. And now Manny Ramirez with the 4th best batting average in the American League. And in limited duty, he has put those numbers up. Runner going, chopper is fair. And the throw by Batista gets Ramirez. Alomar off with the pitch, on second with 1 out.
Boy, you don't see that very often. A right-handed hitter has a good view of that base runner at first base. An unbelievable jump by Robbie Alomar, and yet Manny Ramirez was simply not able to hold up. He could have gotten to second base easily. Look at that. He was off and running. There would not even have been a throw. If Ramirez could have taken 1 pitch, he would have had a runner in scoring position. But I think the fact that Alomar took off kind of shook him up a little bit, and he pulled off a very hittable pitch.
So Alomar in scoring position, but 2 out for Travis Fryman. For all that Wells does right, he does have his difficulties holding runners.
Well, when you don't walk any more guys than he does, there just aren't that many runners on base to
lack of practice, maybe.
Work on holding them.
Fryman a career high with 106 RBIs. A big second half surge. That one's high, and it's 2-0.
That's always been the problem with the Cleveland Indian lineup for the opposing pitcher, is there's just not much of a drop-off the deeper you get into the lineup. Segui hitting behind him. Tomey with 36 homers after that. Sandy Alomar, I don't care if he's having an off year in a game like this, he can step up.
On the outside corner. Wells paints it, makes it 2-1. The Indians had 1 run in 17 innings this year against Wells coming into today. And 3 batters in. They already have 1 today. Hoping to tie it up right here. The 2-1 is rolled right to Batista. But the Indians do get that run against David Wells, and it's 2-1 through 1 at Jacobs Field. 42,000 and change again at Jacobs Field. The Indians will, for the first time, lead the majors in attendance as Colorado drops off a bit this year in the National League. Steve Woodard served up an infield hit to Shannon Stewart, and then the 15th homer of the year by Alex Gonzalez. 2 batters in, trailed 2-0, but his offense got him 1 of those back in the bottom half of the first. He faces Tony Batista, Jose Cruz, and Todd Green in the second. Batista at 40 home runs, 6th best in the American League, 113 RBIs, and a .261 average. Now holds 2 club records for home runs at a position for the Blue Jays. Most ever by a third baseman in 1 year, most ever by a shortstop. But he has suffered in September, and now into October, just 160 since the end of August.
Well, a lot of problems for the Arizona Diamondbacks this year. 11 games out of first place behind the Giants, and I think part of that problem starts with this guy right here. They had him. They gave up on him. 31 home runs last year, 40 this year, and from a guy that can play shortstop. Just because he knew Toronto would be a better club with Alex Gonzalez at short, he was willing to go to third.
Diamondbacks would love to still have his bat to plug in at shortstop now, but they wanted the left-handed middle reliever. They got Dan Plesac last year, and the Jays got Batista and John Frascatore. Batista 0 for 5, never got it through the infield yesterday in the 6-5 Indian win.
It just seems like Batista the last couple of weeks is trying to hit everything out of the park. Only 35 times has he walked all year. That would be the last thing that he would want here. Wanting to add to that home run, possibly that RBI total.
It's a distinctive stance and chops one fair. It is backhanded by Fryman. Makes the perfect throw to Tomey. 1 gone in the second.
They talk about this defense, and when they do, normally they start with second and shortstop. But they were telling me before the game, this guy deserves the Gold Glove, talking about Travis Fryman at third base. For Fryman, just 15 errors on the year. That very easily could have gone as an error if not for the nice pick on the in-between hop and the good strong throw.
And your top fielding third baseman on the top fielding defense in baseball. Only 8 errors this year for Fryman. And make a good solid Gold Glove argument this year. Here's Jose Cruz Jr.
You know, Fryman's also a guy that came up as a shortstop with the Detroit Tigers. Moved over to third, got bigger, stronger.
Cruz shortens up, takes it 1-1. .31 homers on the season for Cruz, who hit 26 his rookie year with Seattle in '97, and then the next 2 years combined totaled just 25. Actually got sent down a couple of times last year. One on a rehab, but one to rethink his stroke. Keep working on handling the off-speed pitch.
Well, it's that curveball. And he just proved to Steve Woodard that he's still having trouble with that pitch. You would expect to see it a lot this afternoon.
Cruz 1 for his last 14 coming in and swings right through that one. Strikeout number 3 for Woodard. All swinging.
Well, you can either go to the hitter's weakness or go to your strength. Woodard decides to go with his strength. That's that straight changeup. Good arm speed. It helps the fact that Steve Woodard is so big, 6'4", 215. You think you're going to get a lot out of him when you're standing there at home plate, but you really don't. Real deceptive. That big high leg kick hides the ball well. All of that together helps that changeup.
Todd Green, the DH. Fryman, who began the inning, ends it. A 1-2-3 second for Woodard, and we'll see Segui, Thome, and Sandy Alomar, the Indian second. Months to get to this point. If they don't make it, they think about it for the next 6 months. The Indians must win today to maintain any hope of another trip to the postseason. They are on the short end of a 2-1 score as David Segui prepares to lead off the bottom half of the second inning. They do get one in the first off David Wells. Almost untouchable historically against Cleveland. Here's Segui at .332 with the Rangers and Cleveland this year. 19 home runs and a career high 103 RBIs. By far his biggest RBI season.
He's been one of those guys that just seems to get better every year. Segui also a free agent at the end of the year. Cleveland Indians front office telling me before the game he is one of their objectives. They do want him back, but they've got to deal with the Manny Ramirez situation first.
Ramirez has already turned down $75 million over 5 years. Well, staying away and missing on all 3 of these offerings to David Segui.
Some guys see the ball better at night, some during the day, most during the day, I should say. David Segui sees it real well during the day. He is number 1 in the American League this year with a .320 batting average in the afternoon.
Got to be the shades.
Well, and it might be the fact that he gets a lot of counts as he does here at 3-1 counts. A nice one to have.
Wells comes to him at 3-1 and he shoots it through the right side, a base hit. The 3rd hit already by the Indians. On Friday, things looking very bad for Cleveland. They were down 4-0 in the 3rd, but Jim Thome got the offense jump started. Kenny Lofton kept it going. Big blow would come a bit later, and from the usual source too. Manny Ramirez parking one, and from 4-0 down they came back and took it 8-4. They won yesterday 6-5. All these must-win scenarios for Cleveland, with Seattle and Oakland both winning yesterday, and both scoring over 20 in the process. First time for 2 teams in one day to hit the 20 mark or higher run scored since 1900. 266 for Thome. Segui off first. 1-1. Thome now 3rd on the all-time Indian home run list, 232. One of the 2 ahead of him is Ramirez. Albert Bell at the top, but like so many of them, very little success against Wells.
Ramirez is not ahead of Jim Thome as far as home runs are concerned in the postseason. Thome has hit 16 homers, and the only guy with more homers per at bat in the postseason ever is a guy named Babe Ruth.
1-2.
So out of all of these Cleveland Indians wanting to get to the postseason, Thome's got to be one of the guys wanting to get there the most. Maybe right behind him, a guy named Chuck Finley came over here because he thought it was a given. The Indians go to the playoffs every year. Finley had not been there since his rookie year with the Angels, but it's not his fault. He's gone 6-1 during this last month of the season.
16-win season. Just missing 2-2.
Just missing in the mind of John Hirschbeck. David Wells normally doesn't say a whole lot or react any different to a call, but he thought he had that pitch on the outside corner and is still wondering why that was not called strike 3.
A couple outings ago, the second base umpire, Mark Wegner, Wells thought was really squeezing him behind the plate. And he had some words for Wegner to that effect. He is down at second today. 3-2, his second 3-ball count here in the second inning. Remember, he has now gone 33 consecutive innings since his last walk. 4 starts plus today. The 3-2 pitch. Broken back, comes almost all the way out to the mound, and it drops in front of Stewart. First and second, nobody out. There are shards of that weapon used by Thome all over the infield. But it did the job.
Maybe anybody else in the lineup tonight, Shannon Stewart could have gotten to that ball. But when you got a guy like Thome, left-handed, dead pull, tremendous power, as a left fielder, you've got to shade him to pull, and you got to play deep. Stewart just had no chance of getting to that ball, gave it everything he had. As you know, this Toronto Blue Jay team is going to do today. And the reason is because of their guy on the mound and all that David Wells has given them this year.
Of the first 7 Indians to face Wells, 4 have reached, including both Segui and Thome here in the second, and now Sandy Alomar. Off year maybe, but he is still a .290 hitter. Bouncer on the right side. Orendini gets the runner at second, but not in time. The relay by Gonzalez. Down to third with 1 out is Segui.
Sandy Alomar, another free agent playing this afternoon. Look at the leg. Look at the desire for him to get out of the batter's box. You know those knees are always hurting him, but he knows how important this game is, and he knows that if they don't win, those knees will have plenty of time to heal.
So with 1 out, first and third, Segui 90 feet away from tying it up. Alomar reaching on the fielder's choice. Cabrera, the left fielder, will stand in. 2 homers, 15 driven in, .256 the average. Most versatile Indian. They can play him at any of 5 spots left field today. Strike 1. His 21st start of the year in left. He's also played the other 2 outfield spots, second base and shortstop. And only 1 error at all those different spots this year.
Every team needs certain guys that help fit into their budget. And that's basically what Cabrera is for the Indians.
0-2. Defensively, he's like 2 or 3 different guys. He's their spare outfielder and spare middle infielder.
And really a true center fielder. And with the shoulder injury to Kenny Lofton, one of the few guys that can play that position, and you don't lose a whole lot defensively with him out there on a day-to-day basis. Now you leave him out there for a couple of weeks, and Kenny Lofton's speed and savvy and jumps would be missed.
Wells hoping to get the double play or strikeout here at 0-2, and it hits him. The 5th hit batter this year by maybe the best control pitcher in baseball. Now Fregosi will join Wells in arguing that it did not hit him, that it hit the bat.
I think Wells has a legitimate argument here. This ball was close to being a strike, just a couple of inches off the plate, elevated right where Wells wanted. Cabrera knew that he'd gotten the first 2 strikes there, probably going to come back in the same location, leaning out over the plate, left his elbow there, and was able to get on base. He's not moving anywhere. He's staying right there. Look at this. Look at him diving right there. See him going out. Now he stays. That's a bad call.
Didn't get the bat, got the wrist. Ball is going to stay. Fregosi heads back to the dugout with the bases loaded with 1 out. Only the 5th hit batter all year by David Wells, and it brings Lofton back up, and he started the first with a double. Ground rule bounced over the center field wall.
Well, he started that first inning with a double on the curveball. He'll probably adjust and look fastball now. Wow. Now that ball well off the inner half of the plate, but the hitter did what the rules say he's supposed to do. He moved. You're supposed to make an attempt to get out of the way of the pitch. Does Lofton do that? Certainly he does. Had Cabrera done the same thing, he would not have been hit.
Right side hit well off the glove of Martinez. Segui coming home. Alomar coming home. They will hold Cabrera at third. Lofton drives in two.
Kenny Lofton hits this ball harder than he did the ball in the first inning. Dave Martinez got a good jump. He got to it, not able to see it into the glove. I think it's got to go as a double, though, and a couple of RBIs. Even Boomer knew the ball was hit hard, was going to be a difficult play. Martinez always solid defensively. I don't think he ever really picked it up. On an afternoon game, a lot of light-colored shirts in the ballpark, and this ballpark is full of them.
It is a double, and it's a strike to Omar Vizquel, with Wells now trailing 3-2. The second straight double by Lofton. He moves Cabrera to third. Still only one out. Vizquel with the 1-4 sacrifice, which got Lofton to third in the first. Missing with a breaker, 1-1.
Bergozzi deciding to bring the infield in because Vizquel only hitting just barely over 200 from the right side of the plate. Feels like if he can keep the run from scoring here, he'll give Wells a base to work with when the next two guys, Alomar and Ramirez, come up.
They have now changed that to a sac fly and an error on Martinez, and only one RBI for Lofton. First up on the board, they have the Indians with their 5th hit of the game against Wells. So again, they charge Martinez with the error, getting to it, but letting it glance off the top of his glove.
I think that's a play where every official scorekeeper should go out there and try to make. And then you'll decide that's not an error.
Lofton gets his 72nd RBI. Vizquel working at 1 and 2. Red hot over his last 24 games, a .353 hitter. This one is lofted to short right center. Martinez
with 15 outfield assists already.
His throw is up the line and late. Cabrera comes home to make it 4-2.
A lot of things going against Boomer Wells here in the second inning. The bloop base hit off the powerful Jim Tomei. A possible ground ball off the bat of Sandy Alomar for a double play that was not turned. The 0-2 hit by pitch. And the error charge to Dave Martinez. Now the throw off the line. Things not going Boomer's way. Everything going Cleveland's way here in the second.
4-2 with the number 3 hitter Roberto Alomar, who drove in the first run with a single his first time up. David Wells this year with an ERA of 0.53. 2-0 against the Indians. They already get to him for 4 runs in an inning and 2/3 today. On the left side and foul, with Lofton getting to third almost before the ball did. Wells paying little to no attention to Kenny Lofton.
I'm not real sure, excuse me, Dave, that Tony Batista realizes there's just a man on second. There's not a man on first. He touched third base like he thought that would be the fielder's choice to end the inning. With the speed of Alomar, you hesitate like he did touching that bag He might have been in trouble on that last play.
The 25th pitch of the inning. Alomar down on strikes, but a 3-run spot put up by the Indians. They trailed 2-0. 2 innings later, they lead 4-2.
Back in the studio. Baseball news just in. The Phillies have made it official, confirming that they are going to fire manager Terry Francona. Francona and the Phillies just didn't work out this season. They spent a lot of money in the offseason hoping to contend, but they have a record of 65-96 coming into today's regular season finale, which Francona, by the way, will manage. But after that, Francona and his entire coaching staff will be dismissed, and the Phillies will try to rebuild once again. Let's go back to Cleveland.
Well, we had gone all season without a managerial change for the first time since 1942. Orandini is out number 1. Woodard hopping quickly off the mound here in the top of the 3rd.
Who's going to be next?
Maybe Jim Fregosi. He is not very encouraged about his opportunity to stay after this year.
He certainly didn't act that way before the game, did he? I don't expect Terry Francona to be unemployed for long, no. Every team has a fall guy, and it looks like it was him this year.
Very well liked by most. 1-0 to Shannon Stewart, who led off with an infield single and then scored on the home run by Alex Gonzalez in the 1st. Didn't look very bright for Woodard right then, trailing 2-0 to Wells, but as he takes him out here in the 3rd, he leads by 2. One of those runs earned in the 2nd. 2 unearned against Wells, with the call on Martinez, the error in right field. Not a whole lot of solace for him, though. 3-0 count to Stewart. Woodard has not walked anybody today, and not yet here. 3-1. He has struck out 3. The only 2 hits were those first 2 batters. In the air to center. Lofton backing almost all the way up against the wall, but he brings it in for out number 2.
With a lot of youngsters, they might be worried. I've already given up 4 runs to Cleveland. What am I going to do? They're coming at me again. But that's not the case with a guy like David Wells. He was sitting there a minute ago. We saw him just in deep thought, trying to figure out, all right, what did I do wrong? What could I have done different? Forget the error by Martinez. Forget the double play not turned. What could I have changed? He got that thought out. Now he's back to being his free-loving, easygoing self. I came to the ballpark with him today. We got out of the cab. He had been to the Who concert last night. I mean, this guy enjoys life. And why wouldn't you?
What better way to prepare for a start than go listen to Pete Townsend and the boys?
He's a beauty.
20 wins for the first time in his career. 1-2 to Gonzalez.
The oldest ever to win 20 for the first time since Ollie Reynolds back in 1952.
Chopper to Fryman, and after those first 2 touched Woodard for 2 runs in the 1st, he has now set down 9 Blue Jays in a row. Alomar, Ramirez, and Fryman do it.
The Rockies and the Braves. Atlanta looking for a win to clinch home field in round 1 of the playoffs. Jeff Cirillo slaps a single to right. Brian Jordan's up with it. Nefi Perez trying to score, and Javi Lopez pins him. If that was Olympic wrestling, that'd be a gold medal move. Rockies lead at 1-0 in the 3rd.
Judges would have to like that one. David Wells taking the mound after surrendering 3 runs in the 2nd, 2 unearned. This copyrighted telecast presented by authority of the Commissioner of Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent.
Getting that out of the way early, huh? Expecting some fireworks before this afternoon's over.
Let's get this out of the way early, too. Log on to MajorLeagueBaseball.com, the most complete baseball coverage on the internet. There. Manny Ramirez, who grounded to third his first time up.
Now that MajorLeague.com, that's good stuff.
Yes,
man.
it is. Can't live without that. That's a must-see.
If you haven't tried it, do.
Or what would Manny Ramirez's numbers look like if he hadn't missed 44 games with injury? 37 homers at 121 as is, and that's fair down the line. Extra bases for Ramirez. Shannon Stewart will get it back in. A leadoff double in the third. Wells has another beat. This is with third base umpire Jim Reynolds. Fregosi out as well.
Normally an umpire will tell a manager, look, I've got a much better view of it than you do. But because of Fregosi being down the first base line, he had a good shot of this as well. Now John Hirschbeck's doing a nice job here getting Boomer out of the way because Boomer could possibly get tough. This is a competitor, and he's as mad as he can possibly be. He's not only mad at the third base umpire, he's mad at the home plate umpire as well.
Right over the bag. And the discussion moving to the mound. Fregosi takes up the cause now with John Hirschbeck, having said his piece to Jim Reynolds. He got kicked out yesterday, arguing a home run by Robbie Alomar. He thought it was foul. It was ruled fair just inside the left field foul pole.
You know, and I saw that last night on Baseball Tonight. That ball did look fair. I thought it was a correct call. A lot of frustration on the part of Jim Fregosi. Some insecurity about what's going to happen. But that looks like a fair ball to me. It looked like it went right over the bag in fair territory. It hit inside the fair line as it got to the bag.
Close but fair, it appeared. So a leadoff double by Manny Ramirez. Travis Fryman also grounded to third his first time up. They have had the lead man aboard all 3 innings for the Indians, and in the first 2 they scored. Lofton in the first, Segui in the second. Fryman with a chance to bring Ramirez home here for a 3-run lead. He takes a strike.
This is the biggest difference between these two ball clubs right here. Situational hitting. Cleveland, New York Yankees, so good at it. The young Toronto Blue Jays, just not.
Fryman particularly good. Runners in scoring position, almost a 400 hitter in the second half. 396. Already up. Chris Carpenter in the Toronto pen. You know they didn't expect to get anybody up anywhere near this early with Wells on the mound. 17-3 lifetime against Cleveland. 2-0 this year. 2 8-1 victories, May 4th and July 26th. Trouble from the first batter on this afternoon for him. That's a strike. 1-2.
2 straight complete games for Boomer in his last 2 outings. Went 8 innings, and the one before that in an extra inning win against the New York Yankees. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the bullpen were still in there eating breakfast. Maybe a little brunch with Boomer on the mound.
Call strike 3, second strikeout, and a big first out here in the third.
Well, Boomer knew exactly what Travis Fryman wanted to do there, and he just never gave him a pitch to get it done with. You're trying to hit the ball the opposite field. You want something out over the plate. Boomer never did give him an opportunity to see something like that.
David Segui, who led off the second with a single, came around to score. On the ball, ruled a sac fly and an error in right field off the bat of Lofton. Up the middle, little blooper coming hard as Cruz can't get there. Holding halfway was Ramirez, so he can only make third. They're on the corners with 1 out in the third. David Segui 2 for 2.
Really a bad jump there on the part of the young center fielder for Toronto. It was a jam shot. Segui making the pitch that he wanted it. Look at the inside part. Excuse me. You can see it getting in on the hands of David Segui. Boomer Wells making the pitch that he wanted, but you can look up and see that Jose Cruz was still stopped as that ball got elevated and headed towards him. By him not moving on that very first step, he had no chance to get there, and more frustration for Boomer Wells.
Here's Tomey, who also singled his first time up. Wells has faced 15 batters. 8 have reached base. Chop foul, 0-1.
That's another thing that makes David Segui such a valuable player. Great Gold Glove caliber defense at first base. Hitting over 300 once again with runners in scoring position. That was Segui's job when he first got to the big leagues. Was come off the bench late in the game, get a pinch hit with runners in scoring position, and get somebody's closer. He got bigger and stronger, became an everyday player, and still remembered how to hit in those situations.
Hit hard down the line in right and gone. Tomey with a 3-run shot, his 37th of the year. Cleveland breaks it open against David Wells in the third.
When you get on the big stage, as Jim Tomey is here this afternoon, you got to step up. Tomey has always done that in the postseason, but the guy that's going to have to step out now is David Wells. A tough afternoon, but a terrific year.
Boy, is this ever the last thing you expected to see. Jim Tomey sending David Wells to the showers after 2 1/3 at Jacobs Field. 7-2. Started by the Cleveland Bats. They get 7 on the board, 5 earned, 7 hits, and they chase 20-game winner David Wells after just 2 1/3 innings. And he is replaced by Chris Carpenter with 3 more runs home on the Tomey home run, his 37th of the year. So here's Carpenter, a starter with a 10-12 record and an ERA over 6.2, and he works to Sandy Alomar.
The Cleveland Indians have trailed in all 3 games during this series, but have come back as they have this afternoon.
Up near the chin, Alomar backed away at 1-1.
It's all about command with Chris Carpenter. Velocity, the stuff is all there, but the command just comes and goes. That was a curveball that he knocked down Alomar with. The crowd thinking something was intended, nothing meant by it. He makes a little adjustment though and comes back with a good curve.
And quickly disposes of Sandy Alomar for out number 2 in the inning. This is the 7th relief appearance, by the way, for Carpenter. Not unheard of to see him come out of the pen.
After 27 starts this year, a record of 10-12. The problem, just too many base runners. 174 innings now, 203 hits, 82 base on balls. That makes for some long afternoons for your defense.
Cabrera involved in a real key play in the 2nd inning when he was hit by a pitch while appearing to make no attempt to get out of the way of the pitch. And the next batter with the bases loaded, Kenny Lofton, sent one off the glove of Martinez in deep right, ruled an error and a sacrifice fly, and 1 RBI for Lofton in the on-deck circle with 2 outs here in the 3rd. 2-1 to Cabrera. I mean, this really is stunning, Rick. 7 runs that quickly against David Wells, who had given up only 2 in 2 outings this year to the Indians.
Plus the fact that Wells on the year 11-2 went on the road with an ERA under 3, 2.90, which is 2nd in the American League, only to Pedro Martinez, which might be where David Wells ends up in the Cy Young Award.
Popped up short center, Cruz. 4 out, number 3. Wells is gone. The last pitch he throws is parked right over the right field wall by Jim Thome, who made it 7-2 Indians. Wells a quick scratch. 2 1/3 innings gone. Replaced by Chris Carpenter. Trailing 7-2 as we move to the 4th inning. Steve Woodard works to Dave Martinez, Carlos Delgado, and Darren Fletcher. Martinez a strikeout victim in the first. What must this feel like now for Steve Woodard? 5 pitches in, he's trailing 2-0. Now looks up, sees what his bats have done for him. Rolled past the mound, backhanded by Alomar, and the throw is in time to Thome.
Robbie Alomar already with a base hit for himself this afternoon. Just simply takes one away from Dave Martinez. Martinez from the left side of the plate, going to get there quickly. Good speed for Martinez, off and running. But as you know, anything hit up the middle with Vizquel and Alomar, don't assume it's going to get through, because more times than not it does not, as is the case there.
Carlos Delgado struck out for the 3rd time in 4 career appearances against Woodard. His first time up. And the big shift to the right side with Vizquel almost directly behind second base. Thome guarding the line in right. Woodard falling behind him, 2-0.
The only guy that has hit the ball out of the infield since that 2-run homer to Alex Gonzalez was Shannon Stewart.
Puts one in play this time in deep left field. Cabrera with his back almost up against the wall has it for the 2nd out.
Well, the ball is really carrying well here this afternoon. It normally does, but not any better than it's doing now. All of the outfielders, including Kenny Lofton, on the ball that Shannon Stewart hit, coming up a little bit short. They get set. All right, I think it's there. No. You keep drifting back because of that carry.
They'll start in front of the track, and that's where they expect it to come down, and it's 10, 12, 15 feet deeper. If they get it up in the air so far today, without exception.
And there's a lot of guys in both of these lineups that have been getting it in the air all year long, including Darren Fletcher. Look at that. That's not a mistake. 20 home runs on the year.
He got his 20th on Thursday, the 7th Blue Jay to get there this year. Woodard covers on the throw by Thome. Woodard has set down 12 straight Blue Jays. Should Seattle lose to Anaheim, Oakland beat Texas today. Oakland wins the West. Cleveland at Seattle tomorrow for the wild card berth in the American League. Our second possibility, should Seattle win and Oakland lose today, Oakland then has to go to Tampa. Cleveland would then play at Oakland for the wild card berth should the A's lose to the Devil Rays tomorrow. Possibility 3, Cleveland wins, both Seattle and Oakland lose. These are actually the best for the Indians. Oakland plays Tampa tomorrow. If they win, then Cleveland at Seattle Tuesday. If Oakland loses, Cleveland wins the wild card. So 2 Oakland losses and this victory for Cleveland, the best of all possible worlds. Kenny Lofton lofts one down the line and left. This one carries, still going. This one is gone up on the home run porch. A career high 15th home run of the year for Lofton, and it's 8-2.
It's the 2nd run of the afternoon that Lofton has scored. He tied a major league record earlier this year when he scored a run in 18 consecutive games. Truly remarkable year for Kenny Lofton. When you think about the shoulder surgery he had in December, the fact that he wasn't expected to play until the All-Star break. Career high, as you mentioned, Dave, in homers. 107 runs scored in just 137 ball games.
Omar Vizquel pops one back out of play. And talking about how well the ball is carrying, that one carried better than any. That looked like not hit that well at all. It's just to the right of the 325 mark. Got it up high enough. Wind helped it all the way to the home run porch. On the corner, 1-2, 345 feet. They called the Lofton shot. Second home run today by the Indians. Vizquel is down for the first out in the fourth, and we send you to Larry Beal.
Thank you, Dave. Rockies and the Braves. Atlanta needing a win to clinch home field in round 1 of the postseason. Kevin Jarvis serving up lunch to Chipper Jones. A 2-run clout, his 36th of the season, and the Braves take a 2-1 lead there now in the top of the 5th. I want that ball, please.
42,000 plus again at Jacobs Field. 454th consecutive sold-out house here in downtown Cleveland. Roberto Alomar with a single and a strikeout.
Larry wanting an autographed souvenir baseball. He should have been here today. It's already been 3 hit and possibly more to come.
Alomar would love to get his 20th at 19 for the year coming in. Made the All-Star team again, his 10th straight. Back out of play, 2-2. Much of the year, Sandy was out hitting Roberto. That has happened for one full season only once 10 years ago. Even into mid-August, Sandy had the better average, but with the surge of late by Roberto, he's got it at 310, and Sandy has dropped 20 points behind him at 290.
Hitting 261 back on July 19th for Roberto, but he's been banged up. Ankle injuries, wrist injuries this year.
Works him for a walk. First issued by Toronto. Wells at least kept his walk-free pitching streak going. Small consolation. 34 to third innings. He closes the regular season without allowing a base on balls. And with Ramirez stepping in, they're hoping for yet another souvenir. Got the target set up. Down the line and left. Ramirez 1 for 2 with a double and a run scored. All 4 innings now, Cleveland has gotten the lead runner aboard on a base hit. All 4 times that man has scored. Alomar the lead with 1 out. Second in the American League, 39 stolen bases on the year.
You know, he doesn't look like he wants to run in this situation. You can understand why with Manny Ramirez at home plate, but a lot of guys know their numbers. And if he knows he's got 39 stolen bases, I mean, that 40 just sounds a lot better.
Only Johnny Damon has more in the AL, 46 for the Kansas City center fielder. And now Carpenter struggling with the zone a bit behind Ramirez 2-1.
You can see why the fans are expecting a homer. Ramirez has hit 37. Carpenter has given up 29.
The Indians fall short in this bid for the postseason. Blown leads like the one they have right now should be the first thing that comes to mind. They have had 6 games this year where they coughed up a lead of 5 or more runs. 3 times they lost a lead of 7 runs. Once a 6-run lead. They're 1-5 in those 6 games. 7 other games they blew a 4-run lead, 1-6 in those games. A 6-run lead, and Woodard setting 12 in a row down, so they look strong at the moment. That one handled by Batista, who starts a double play. Alomar sliding in hard at second, but not hard enough to prevent Ramirez from grounding into 2. 8-2 after the Lofton home run.
And the Cardinals, a Cardinal win and a Brave loss would give the Cardinals home field in round one of the playoffs. And this is Cincinnati's D.C. Cromer, his second of the year. It's 1-0 Reds, bottom of the first. Back to Cleveland.
All right, there's your National League drama, our American League drama. Right now, 8-2 as we move to the fifth. The Indians keeping the heat on Seattle and Oakland. We'll play beginning at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific on ESPN2. Mariners Anaheim. A's Rangers. Tony Batista leading things off in the fifth for Toronto.
Those two teams not only playing, but Seattle throwing out their ace, Aaron Seeley, with 17 wins. He's won 4 straight. Pitching today. And on the other hand, Tim Hudson going for Oakland, 19-6, and he is also on a roll, having won his last 6 straight decisions.
He can join David Wells as the only 20-game winners in the American. Woodard seeing just how far he could get Batista to bite out of the zone. First 2 batters got to him for an infield single by Shannon Stewart, a home run by Alex Gonzalez. No other Blue Jay has reached base. Liner right at Robbie Alomar, 13 straight.
The biggest thing that has turned Steve Woodard's year around has been their pitching coach, Dick Pohl, and the conversation about you've got to stay down. Even though this ball is hit hard, look at the location on that pitch. And when you're down in the zone like that, you give yourself a chance, because the infield, including yourself, there's 5 gloves out there to cover that area. You get to the outfield on something elevated, there's a lot more room and only 3 gloves to help you. There's a look at Dick Pohl explaining to Steve Woodard what his strength is. Forget about everybody else's weakness. You stay with your strength. You stay down. Well, his strength down also happens to be the strength of this club and their infield defense. Dick Pohl also having a lot to do with another guy's success. He was with Greg Maddux during their minor league days and also their time in Chicago. Talking about a guy that stays down.
Talking about a guy whose success you would want to share in. Arguably the best pitcher of his generation. Jose Cruz holds up 2-1.
Not going to get any argument here.
He saw it up front. Beginning of his career with the Cubs. Woodard's career really taking a turn for the better after being traded by Milwaukee. Didn't get much run support from the Brewers, who were 2-8-1 this year in his 11 starts. Comes over to Cleveland. He's made 10 starts, and they are 7-3 in those, and have supplied him with 6.2 runs per game, and already 8 for him on the board here. He has shown the ability to rise to the occasion. The Indians were winless lifetime until 10 days ago against Pedro Martinez. Woodard outdueled the best pitcher in the league this year, 2-1, with 6 shutout innings, 3 hits. His first career start, he says, is still his most memorable. It was 3 years ago against the Blue Jays and Roger Clemens. Then he went 8 innings of 1 hit shutout ball, struck out 12. He tied an 82-year-old American League record for most strikeouts in a major league debut with those 12. And today he's out there for the 5th. David Wells long gone. Cruz strikes out for the 2nd time.
Woodard's going to get himself in trouble when that strikeout total is up, because that's not his strength. His strength is down, but the weakness is so glaring of Jose Cruz with that curveball. Cruz can hit the curveball that's in the strike zone. He cannot hit the one that's down, as that one was, nor has he had the ability yet to recognize that.
2nd time. Woodard sent him back to the dugout, shaking his head. Now the DH, Todd Green, out in front of that one.
We talked about the amazing control all year of David Wells. Well, the control of Woodard has been terrific. Not only this afternoon he hasn't walked anybody, but he has only walked 2 guys the whole month of September. Only 2 3-ball counts today.
0-2 to Green. Woodard tries to make him the 15th straight Blue Jay batter he's set down. 4 strikeouts. And just does stay alive. Woodard, 5th round pick by the Brewers in '94. He was their opening day starter this year. The Indians dealt for him July 28th along with Jason Beret. Bob Wickman cost him Richie Sexton's bat and 3 others. 5 strikeouts, 15 straight retired. 8-2 Indians on a must-win day. Bottom of the 5th, 8-2 Indians over the Blue Jays tonight on ESPN. Sunday Night Football begins at 8:30 Eastern. And Jamal Anderson, who's beginning to regain the form he displayed in the Super Bowl year of 1998, leads the Falcons to the city of brotherly love. He battled Donovan McNabb and the Philadelphia Eagles tonight. Sunday Night Football on ESPN. All day today here on ESPN2. The baseball picture clearing up. And the sentiments here in Cleveland would also extend to the Oakland A's. They've loved for nothing but upsets out west today by Anaheim and Texas. So far, the Indians doing their half of the bargain.
Well, let me ask you this, Dave. Who do you think the Chicago White Sox and New York Yankees are pulling for? You think they want to see Cleveland with all of the momentum and as well as they've played the last 6 weeks, or do they want to take their chances on somebody winning that wild card out of the AL West?
I wouldn't think they'd relish the idea of the Cleveland lineup.
This team is rolling. Now, whether they're going to be able to roll any further, only time will tell. But nobody right now in baseball playing any better than the Cleveland Indians are.
Travis Fryman greeting the 3rd Toronto pitcher of the day, John Frascatore.
And, you know, that's always been the thing about the postseason. The best team doesn't always win. The team that's playing the best during the month of October is the team that's going to win. And right now, that team is this Cleveland Indians.
Up around the chin, 2-1. You get Seattle, that is a team with some postseason experience to try to win their 3rd American League West. Oakland, a long time since they visited the postseason, but maybe the MVP of the league this year, and Jason Giambi. Great young pitchers like Hudson, Zito. Wouldn't exactly relish going up against them in a series either.
Yeah, but you look at the balance in this Cleveland lineup, and Seattle just doesn't throw that at you. You look at the defense that they're playing. Bartolo Colon and how he's throwing now.
Little chopper, which is foul, fielded right in front of the bag by Batista. 3rd base umpire had ruled it foul. 1st base umpire Charlie Williams says safe, but the ball was already dead.
The biggest thing that has turned this Cleveland Indian ball club around, also Jim Hart, when he made the deals in July for Wickman and bringing them over, but it all starts with that guy right there. Kenny Lofton's going to get on base. Vizquel and Alomar will do their thing, but that's the big boy, and those numbers show you exactly why.
If he plays a full year with the numbers he's put up in missing 44 games, he's probably the MVP. Indians may well, it is pure conjecture, they may well have made up the 6 games if they trail behind the White Sox. Martinez over for this one. First out in the 5th. We check into the studio with Larry Beal.
Thank you, Dave. We're tracking everything. Reds and Cards. The most important acquisition of the summer for any team might have been Will the Thrill Clark, hitting .337 with the Cards and 12 homers, taking Steve Paris to Paris. Remember, Cardinal win and Brave loss gives the Cards home field in round 1. It's a 2-1 game.
Yeah, Cardinals were teetering when Mark McGwire started to miss time with the bad knee, and Will Clark came over and did as good a Mark McGwire imitation as you could ever ask for. Strike 1 to David Segui. 2 for 2, 2 runs scored. It's the average up to .334. Not a bad acquisition here. Rangers gave up Segui, July 28th. They got Ricky Leday, who's still in the 230s, right where he was with the Yankees and the Indians. And Segui still in the 330s, where he's been all year. Another base hit. 3 for 3. Manny Ramirez in the 3rd inning ignited what would be the rally that chased David Wells with a leadoff double. And then the last pitch thrown by Wells, parked in the right field seats by Jim Thome. 3-run shot, 37th of the year. 106 RBIs now for Thome. That made it 7-2. Lofton's leadoff homer in the 4th made it 8-2 against Chris Carpenter.
You mentioned the games that Ramirez has missed this year. How about last year when he missed 15 games and still had 165 RBIs? Right when you thought that was a career year, this guy just keeps getting better.
Keeping with your theme, who would you rather play? Here's New York with 6 straight losses, 14 of 17. Backing in big time in the East, and then you got Chicago at 95 wins, best record in the league. But a lot of questions about their pitchers. Who's healthy? What order do they want them in?
Well, let's not kid ourselves. There's some questions about the New York Yankees pitchers as well this year. Starters have been getting pounded as of late. That bullpen, Joe Torre has had to use more than he has in the past. And coming into today's ball game, Charlie Manuel's Cleveland Indians with a better record than the Yankees.
Better record by 2 in the win column, 1 in the loss column. 1-2 to Thome. Segui aboard, 1 out of the 5th. Now Thome hanging in. In the American League, the White Sox at 95 and 66, champions in the Central, best record in the league. A's and Mariners already at 90 wins. Indians will get there if they hang on to this one. New York at 87 and 73. Thome down on strikes, out number 2. Got to add to the frustration for the Red Sox and the Blue Jays. If they had just played a little bit better before this slide by the Yankees, they'd still be in at least the wild card picture.
Well, the Blue Jays are taking credit for Tampa Bay playing so well. Right after they had a great series against the Yankees, got themselves seemingly back into the thing, Tampa Bay came in and took them out of it.
Sandy Alomar is 0 for 2. Fielder's choice. Strikeout, run scored. And quickly down 0-2. Wells went 2 1/3. Gave up 7 runs, 5 earned on 7 hits, struck out 2, did not walk a batter. Carpenter for 1 2/3. Touched only for the Lofton home run, a strikeout and a walk. Now in the 5th, Frascatore, 3rd Blue Jay pitcher. Steve Woodard for the Indians, untouchable since the 1st, when he gave up the 2-run homer to Alex Gonzalez.
Look at the big right-hander, and that's another sign of an intelligent young man. Who does he sit by in between innings? Well, that's Chuck Finley. And if you're talking about guys on the Cleveland Indians to sit by and learn from, he's a pretty good place to start.
Center field deep. Cruz on the track has it. And the Indians get only the base hit by Segui, maintaining the 8-2 margin for Woodard. We move to the 6th at the Jake. 8-2 Cleveland over the Blue Jays. They must win to maintain their place in the American League postseason picture. And then the further questions get answered this afternoon at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific here on ESPN2. We'll bounce back and forth between these two games. Aaron Seeley on the mound for the Mariners. Jim Hudson for the Athletics. Separated by 1/2 game, Oakland over the Mariners going into this final day of the regular season. Yankees underway and trailing already in Baltimore 1-0. If they lose that game, Rick, they enter the postseason with the longest losing streak in history. Nobody has ever gone into the postseason having lost more than their last 6. Cabrera into short right center, and coming on to make the call is Lofton. Morandini, beg your pardon, is the first out in the 6th. 16 straight now set down by Woodard.
Kenny Lofton just doing everything this afternoon for Cleveland. He's the igniter of that offense. 3 terrific at bats, and as he always does, patrolling defensively out there in that spacious center field here at Jacobs Field. Got a lot of different left fielders. Manny Ramirez is going to be out there and right most of the time, but Manny doesn't want to catch any more fly balls than he has to. So Lofton most of the time is going to have to get to those balls, and he does.
Shannon Stewart 1 for 2, scored ahead of the Gonzalez home run of the first. Only one team has ever entered the postseason having lost its last 5 games of the regular season. The '87 Twins, you'd have to say, overcame that disadvantage. They won the World Series that year. Yankees having lost 12 of the last 14. 2-2 to Stewart.
This is the Steve Woodard that we saw last year, the first half of the year with Milwaukee. He won 10 games before the All-Star break for them. A guy that works quick. He's got a good idea of how to pitch for a young guy.
Stewart, his 6th strikeout victim.
Only 65 pitches this afternoon, already into the 6th inning. He's not only saving the bullpen, but this was the Steve Woodard last year. 2nd fewest pitches per at bat in the National League with Milwaukee. Under 4 pitches per hitter. And that's how you can stick around. That's when it becomes easy to play defense, when a guy is throwing strikes as he is now.
The last man to reach. Alex Gonzalez, whose 15th home run of the year, got the Blue Jays off to a quick 2-0 start. A ball and a strike. Gonzalez limited last year, 38 games, surgery for a torn labrum. It's back to health this year. Jam shot off the fist and foul, out of play, 1-2. Blue Jays with an American League record for home runs in a home ballpark this year, 134 at Sky Dome. Previous record held by the Indians at the old Cleveland Stadium, 1970, with 133. And Fregosi, maybe his last day as the manager of the Blue Jays. Decision to be made there in the offseason. That one hit pretty well, but well fouled, and still 1-2. Fragosi's 2nd year with Toronto. His 3rd team also managed the Angels and the Phillies. Phillies, of course, all the way to the series in '93 against Toronto. Left field hit pretty hard, and Cabrera can't get to it. So the streak ends for Woodard, a double. The 2nd extra base hit of the day by Gonzalez. And let's send you to the studio and check in with Larry B.
Thanks, Dave. We're tracking the Rockies and the Braves. They're in the 6th. Terry Shumpert singles in Jeff Cirillo. John Burkett got lifted after that. The Rocks take a 3-2 lead. Atlanta needing a win to clinch home field in round 1 of the postseason.
Gonzalez with a 2-out double in the 6th after 17 in a row had been set down by Woodard. And he now gets Dave Martinez with Delgado on deck. Martinez a strikeout and a ground out so far.
We're going to keep an eye on Woodard here because we mentioned his strength, keeping the ball down, getting those ground balls. Well, the last two guys that have put it in play elevated. And that will become a concern for manager Charlie Manuel.
That went around knee high and chopped foul. Charlie Manuel has not had to get anybody loose in his bullpen yet, but he does now. Karen Cross and Steve Reed.
Reed has almost been unhittable as of late for these Cleveland Indians. Been kind of up and down this year, but he's up now. Talking with the Indians before the game, they say Reed's kind of like the stock market with the up and downs that he's had.
He's if they do have to go to the pen, they are really following quite an opening act. Amazing performance by Woodard. Down 2-0 early to David Wells.
But you can see now when he's missing with that breaking ball, it's not down anymore. That 1-1 curveball elevated. Crowd disappointed that it was not called for a strike. Woodard lucky it wasn't hit a long ways.
Jacob Gonzalez at second. The 2-1 pitch moves back to the screen, and now a pitch away from getting through the 6th inning. Indians hit early and often by injuries to pitchers this year. Jarrett Wright, season-ending shoulder surgery in August. Charles Nagy, his elbow scoped in May. Ricardo Rincon, elbow surgery for a bone spur in June. Had to make some deals to flesh out the staff. They've had 13 different starters, including Woodard, who goes to a full count on Martinez.
You got to figure this is going to be a fastball right down the middle. You've got to make Dave Martinez swing the bat when you look at who's on the on-deck circle and the MVP candidate for the Toronto Blue Jays, Carlos Delgado. One swing of the bat with a couple of guys on, he can get them right back into this game.
Difference of about 36 home runs there, and it is a base hit to left field. Over for it is Cabrera as Gonzalez cruises home with the 3rd run of the game. An RBI base hit by Martinez.
Well, Woodard put himself in that spot. You go to a 3-2 count. Martinez knows what's coming. He gets it, and he hits the ball hard. Now guess what else is coming? Well, it's the manager coming out of the dugout.
Charlie Manuel gets a terrific outing out of Woodard. Not making a move yet. Fans don't want him to. But he makes the call for the left-hander Cairncross with the left-handed Delgado. Stepping to the on-deck circle, and now the ovation for Woodard, who leaves in the 6th, leading 8-3 on a must-win Sunday at Jacobs Field. Steve Woodard goes 5 2/3 innings. Outduels David Wells, allows 4 hits, strikes out 6, does not walk a batter. And with Cleveland, they hope on their way to a win. Possibilities that loom for them. Should Seattle lose to Anaheim, Oakland beat Texas, that makes the A's the champs in the West. And Cleveland headed to Seattle tomorrow for a wild card playoff berth. Or should Seattle win and Oakland lose today, that sends the A's to Tampa tomorrow. Cleveland, if the A's were to lose that game, would then play at Oakland for the wild card berth. That'd be on Tuesday. Or possibility 3, should both Seattle and Oakland lose today, Cleveland hang on. Oakland, Tampa tomorrow. Should Oakland win, Cleveland, Seattle Tuesday for the wild card. Should Oakland lose Monday, Cleveland is the wild card. Oakland and Seattle would play an elimination game, winner take all for the West on Tuesday. Later today, the Mariners Angels and the Rangers A's here on ESPN2. Coverage of both games beginning at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. And the Aussie left-hander Cam Cairncross in to deal with a left-handed Carlos Delgado. Starts him with a strike.
Well, the numbers indicated a move need to be made. Delgado hitting .360 on the year against right-handed pitching. He was 0 for 2 against the starter Steve Woodard, a right-handed pitcher. That means he was probably going to get a hit the next time up. Charlie Manuel says, I don't want to stick around to see it. Bring in a guy that is deceptive, throws from the second base angle, a real good breaking ball. Not much velocity on the fastball, but it's going to be a lot more effective when you can get the breaking ball over, as he has done so far.
Ahead of Delgado, bounces that one in the dirt. 1-2. Cairncross came in yesterday and retired Darren Fletcher with 2 on and 2 out in the 8th, as the Indians held on to win that one 6-5. Had to win that one to get to the possibility of winning this one and staying alive. 2-2 to Delgado.
Not only what a difference a year makes, but what a difference a trade makes for today's starting pitcher Steve Woodard. Booed in Milwaukee, taken out of the starting rotation. Now he pitches the last day of the year here before a sellout crowd in Cleveland.
Well, they put the whole season on his shoulders. Came through in outstanding fashion in his 5 2/3.
Well, they had to do that because they had to move Dave Burba and Chuck Finley up a day, pitching on less rest, or this game would not have been important. Wouldn't have mattered.
Cairncross was ahead 0-2, now the 3-2, and Delgado bangs that one back off of Sandy Alomar.
Difference between a great year, a good year, or a bad year. You're having a great year, as Carlos Delgado is. Look at, completely fooled. Just an excuse me, try to get a piece of it, swing. Look at him. Oh, look at that. Well, if you're having a bad year, you miss that pitch or you put it in play with nothing on it.
Got him. Delgado strikes out for the second time today. They're on their feet at Jacobs Field. 8-3. Lofton will hit in the 6th.
Chart games all over the majors. The Rockies with a 3-2 lead on Atlanta in the bottom of the 6th inning, and Atlanta actually just tied the game as Andrew Jones drove in Rafael Furcal. So click up the number. That's 3-3. The Cardinals lead the Reds 2-1. They are in the 3rd. Significance: Atlanta needs a win to clinch home field in round 1. Cardinal win and Brave loss gives the Cards home field.
Bottom of the 6th at Jacobs Field. 8-3. 42,594 here, and coming up at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific, Mariners Angels, Rangers A's here on ESPN2. Either everything gets answered or gets murkier yet. The West may very well go beyond today. Cabrera pops up the first pitch from Frascatore here in the 6th to the shortstop Gonzalez. Now the top of the order, Kenny Lofton, who has played as big a role in this 8-3 Cleveland lead as anybody. Doubled and scored in the 1st, homered in the 4th. And a sac fly in between. Lofton bothered by the shoulder most of the year. Rotator cuff they fixed last December. But it has come around, and you get the feeling that he pretty much can cut loose 100% on it here, if he's got to make the big throw from deep center.
Oh yeah, he did yesterday on a throw he made to third base. The best part, though, for Cleveland and for Kenny is the fact that he's got his short power stroke back. Favoring that shoulder, the stroke got a little bit long. Offensively, he wasn't as effective as he has been. Nice short, compact stroke.
Opposite field shot there is foul. 0-2.
The word I get is that they're not going to pick up the $8 million option for Kenny Lofton, but they do want to restructure maybe a 2- or 3-year deal to bring him back.
Talking with Kenny, I know he wants to stay here.
Ball strike 3. Inside part of the plate. Second strikeout for Frascatore.
We mentioned Tony Batista coming over from Arizona. Well, the guy he came with is John Frascatore. He's on the mound. Painting that fastball on the inside corner. Frascatore 7-1 with Toronto last year after the trade. And then you think about all the offense from Batista that he brought over last year to the shortstop position. What an amazing trade for Toronto.
Dan Plesac came at a high price. Grounder Morandini. Quick work by Frascatore in the bottom of the 6th. 3 innings to go for the Indians to keep their playoff hopes alive.
A Clubhouse Store presents Major League.
And Rick Sutcliffe. We move to the 7th in Cleveland. 8-3 Indians over Toronto tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Classic. Very definition of classic. Major League Baseball game of the week is Game 6 of 1986. The Red Sox and the Mets. Remember the Mets stunning the Sox 3 runs at the bottom of the 10th. Bill Buckner secures his place in infamy in Boston. You can see it at 9 Eastern tomorrow evening. To order ESPN Classic, call 1-800-CLASSIC or your local cable provider. Maybe the best game ever played. Cancross ended the last inning by striking out Delgado. Begins the 7th with a strike to Darren Fletcher.
Not a World Series game, but a pretty exciting game nonetheless, played here yesterday between these two teams. A 6-5 win for Cleveland.
Little bloop the opposite way will fall for a base hit in front of Cabrera. Darren Fletcher 1 for 3. One of the big blows yesterday, Alomar's controversial home run, ruled just inside that foul pole. And then this defensive gem by Omar Vizquel to end the game and make the Indians a 6-5 winner, keep them alive. They had to win it because both the A's and Mariners won yesterday. Steve Reed on his way in the 7th inning.
Larry Beal in the studio, updating the Yankees and the Orioles. Chris Richard facing El Duque, and the man with 2 first names just hit his 13th of the year. It's a 2-run bomb, 5-1-0s. If the Yanks lose yet again, they will head to the playoffs with a 7-game losing streak, 5-1 in the 4th.
Larry, if it happens, that's a record for longest losing streak going into the postseason. These two yet to be played. Aaron Seeley goes for Seattle, Tim Hudson for Oakland at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. You're on ESPN2. We'll see parts of both those games. We'll go back and forth, follow the action best we can. The right-handed submariner Steve Reed is the 3rd Indian pitcher of the day.
On the year, just the 57th appearance for Steve Reed. He's a guy normally around 65, 70. So durability and pitching every other day does not bother this man.
Reed, one of 7 pitchers used in that 1-run win yesterday. Fletcher is aboard with a leadoff hit off Cancross, just the second and the final batter that Can faced. And now Batista 0 for 2 with a ground ball and a liner to second. Forty home runs, 1 behind Delgado for the team lead for Batista. Jays tied the 96 Orioles this year with 7 players at 20 home runs or better as Paul Shuey gets up. They were the only club ever to have 4 20 home run men by the All-Star break. And the Indians and Anaheim, first American League clubs with 4 at 30 home runs. It's been done 7 times in the National League. The Rockies alone have done it 4 times. Blue Jays with 40 from Batista, 31 from Cruz, 41 Delgado, 32 Brad Fulmer. They're 4 30-plus home run men. Toronto and Anaheim doing it this year.
There's so much talent on that ball club. You could see why Jim Fregosi would like to continue as their manager and watch these guys develop. But the talk around the clubhouse was that that may not be the case.
Fregosi himself expects it to be the case.
There are names like Paul Molitor mentioned.
Pretty good looking pitch by Reed. He thought so. Hirschbeck didn't. 1-2.
Cito Gaston, former Blue Jay manager, their hitting instructor now. Even Dave Stewart, the name being mentioned, who is their pitching coach now.
On the coaching staff for Fregosi, between Gaston, Terry Bevington, and Lee Elliott, almost 2,300 games of Major League managerial experience between those three. And of course, Gaston, the man that took him to a couple of World Series in the early 90s.
Well, since then, though, there's been a lot of instability. Not only a change at the front office level, but last year's coaches were all let go with the exception of Terry Bevington.
Appeal at first. Charlie Williams has he held up. 2-2.
Batista just simply begging right here, completely fooled. If it would have been a strike, he would have had to have gone and sat down. Didn't think that he took a swing at that ball, jogging down towards Charlie Williams, just saying, please don't call me out.
Chopper past the mound, charging for the bare hand. No chance for Vizquel, though, to make a play. And 2 singles to begin the 7th. We check in again with Larry Beal.
Thanks, Dave. Rockies and the Braves in the 6th. Kevin Jarvis is on the mound, and Javi Lopez, we saw make a brilliant tag at the plate to stop a run from scoring earlier in this game. Launches his 24th homer of the year. It's a 2-run cloud. It gives Atlanta a 5-3 lead. A Brave victory would clinch home field in round 1 of the playoffs.
Well, with 2 on, nobody out, Jose Cruz Jr. with a chance to make it interesting. 2 strikeouts so far today, but 31 homers and 76 driven in. Down the left field line, this one will slice 3 rows deep.
Jose Cruz Jr. has really put together a solid second half. His defense has been better. A lot of the veteran players for the Blue Jays telling me that he has really come a long ways. Cito Gaston, their hitting instructor, deserves credit for some of the things he's done offensively. He really kind of taught Cruz to look for a certain pitch. Look for it, sit on it, and when you get it, hurt it.
Can't be real happy with the way his year is ending, though. 1 for 16 is slump as of this at bat.
Well, part of that might be the fact that he has now played in every game this year. It might just be simply a little bit mentally tired, physically tired, maybe both.
Reed backs him off. 2-1.
You know, this inning's starting to go a little bit like the second inning in which Cleveland was able to score 3 runs and take the lead from David Wells. A bloop off the bat of Fletcher. An infield seeing eye hit for Batista. Now Reed behind in the count to Cruz.
On the corner, much to the surprise of Cruz. Thought for sure it had broken inside.
Well,
2-2.
before Jim Tome's bloop, there was a borderline pitch that was not called a strike. That's not even borderline. That's a ball. Should be 3-1. Nobody out. 2 men on.
Instead, he comes to him at 2-2, and a bouncer handled by Tomey. Only 1 play as Fletcher goes to 3rd and Batista to 2nd. Jim Thome records the first out of the 7th inning. And the DH Todd Green will bat 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a ground ball. Green just a couple of years ago the Angels catcher of the future until injuries just piled up on him out in Anaheim, and finally dealt out of the organization, finishing up 247 average, 5 home runs, 10 batted in as a Blue Jay.
You mentioned 134 homers for Toronto at home this year. That set an American League record. It was Todd Green that hit that home run.
1-1 right there too. That was the home run cut.
He's also hit right at 300 on the road, but the problem is for Todd, his on base percentage is under 300. Not many base on balls. When he comes up to home plate, he's got one thing on his mind, that's swinging the bat.
Strikeout here would be huge for Reed with the number 9 hitter Morandini out on deck. 1 out, 2 in scoring position, and he got him fishing.
Little things that really change the complexion of a ball game. They change the voice level of a crowd. Well, that 2-1 pitch that was called strike 2 instead of ball 3 put Jose Cruz in the hole. Reed was able to get the first out there, and he gets the second out here. Little things did not go David Wells' way this afternoon, or it could have been a different outcome as well. Defensive plays not being made. Balls down the line being called fair that might have been called foul. Borderline pitches not being called. It's a big ballpark, but little things can make that difference.
A ball and a strike to Mickey Morandini. 2 in scoring position, 2 outs in the 7th. 8-3 Cleveland lead. Morandini, who came over August 6th from the Phillies for Rob Ducey. Runner at third is Fletcher after a single. Runner at second, Batista, after an infield single. Popped up, drifting foul. Over for it is Cabrera, and he makes the catch. Reed works out of trouble in the 7th. It is still 8-3 Indians.
Rodriguez and the Mariners getting set to face the Angels. I could spend 4 hours explaining all the scenarios, but suffice it to say, if Seattle wants to go to the postseason, a win today would help.
Good idea, Larry. Save your voice. Plenty of time to work through all those possibilities as the afternoon wears on. And in the owner's box here at the Jake, Larry Dolan and some friends holding up thank yous on Fan Appreciation Day here in Cleveland. They draw 42,594. That's the consecutive number of sellouts here, and for the season they go to 3,456,278. Alomar retired on the first pitch to Cruz. 5 straight years of sellouts here at Jacobs Field, and they lead the major leagues in attendance for the first time in 52 years.
You know, also to their credit is the fact that there's a football game not far away from here with a lot of people in attendance, and yet the baseball fans still out here for their Indians. There was a lot of them here for batting practice, and they did exactly the same thing then that they're doing now. They're trying to convince Manny Ramirez this is where you belong. I don't know how much it means to him, but it's got to mean a lot.
Well, you can't ignore it. Impossible. All 42,000 plus are standing. A full minute ovation, and it's not really abating that much yet. It may go through the entire at bat here for Manny Ramirez. He's already turned down $75 million for 5 years, and yet indicating he does want to stay here in Cleveland. One of the major questions of the offseason. This was his launch to center field. Cruz back, no chance. Home run.
They want him here in Cleveland, but he's also going to be wanted in a lot of other places. What a way to respond to that standing ovation. Let's just keep them on their feet for another 3 or 4 minutes.
So Manny returns the love with his 38th of the year. 9-3.
One of those moments that you never forget. The ovation before the at-bat. The player responds. The crowd continues with the ovation. But what about the hair?
What about the hair? What is the story there?
I was laughing with him before the game about that. He was teasing me that I have some highlights in my hair too.
Barnett hits it well, but hauled down by Shannon Stewart for the second out here in the 7th.
But I told him that my highlights are because of old age. His are self-induced. Look at the pitch right there. That's not a bad pitch. Down, in, and you get a guy to hit it to the deepest part of the ballpark. You think you're going to be okay. This ball cleared the center field fence by 60 feet. Oh, my.
Waiting on the official measurement. Yeah, that's got to be 455, 460 somewhere in that vicinity. 38th of the year, 122nd RBI. Now David Segui sends one just out of play.
Well, the Cleveland Indians say they're going to make one more run at Manny Ramirez to try to sign him before he becomes a free agent. But you know what? He's gone this far. How can you blame him for wanting to test the market? Had he got hurt, had he had a bad year, he would have lost money. Well, that didn't happen. He had a terrific year. And so waiting until this point, waiting until he's a free agent, is only going to make him more money.
452 feet officially. 1-1 to Segui. Well, if he is to shop himself, and what kind of team are you looking for? You're looking for a contender in a good park with good support from the fans, from ownership, and a good hitting atmosphere. That's all check marks to stay right here in Cleveland.
But it's just hard to say what the market is right now. We know what it's been in the past with Kevin Brown, Sean Green going from Toronto to LA and what they got. But we're not going to know until George Steinbrenner, Ted Turner get an opportunity to bid for Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, Mike Hampton, Mike Mussina.
Not sure what the situation is back there. Maybe just retrieving the home run ball.
He might have knocked the wall down back there. The ball was hit so far and so hard. What the deal is, David Segui's complaining that the background, with those guys walking around, he's being confused, not able to pick up the baseball.
Well, they can't find the home run by Ramirez, so that's why they've been wandering around back and forth.
Well, it's fine to do that, but let's do it when the inning, we're in between innings. Let's wait till this is over with.
I'm not sure they're looking deep enough. 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. Action from both Anaheim and Oakland. Coming into play in the West, it's Oakland by a half game over Seattle. And myriad possibilities loom. Now Segui bounces one to Gonzalez up the middle. And the end of the 7th. What a memorable moment for Manny Ramirez and the sold-out house here at Jacobs Field. His 38th home run of the year. 452-footer, which makes it 9-3 Indians through 7.
Here he is in the fourth. Singles in Alex Ochoa to tie the game at 2. Remember, if the Cardinals win and the Braves lose, St. Louis gets home field in round 1. The Braves currently leading their game in the 7th. Coming up at 4 Eastern, Ben Grieve and the A's take on the Rangers. A's win and they're in. Now back to Dave and Rick Sutcliffe.
8th inning now in Cleveland, 9-3 after the home run by Ramirez. Steve Reed on for another inning of relief. In the West, Oakland by a half game, and the wild card, Seattle by 1 full game. And the Mariners hang on. They tied those two with 90 victories and then sit back and wait to see what transpires the rest of the day here on ESPN2. Should there be a wild card tiebreaker, Cleveland and Seattle, if necessary, right here on ESPN at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific tomorrow. ESPN 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific, should that possibility turn to reality. Reed works to the top of the order.
Talking with the director of travel for the Cleveland Indians, Mike Segui, he said that plan A is that there's a 9 o'clock chartered flight to Seattle. If Seattle loses the ball game, as you talked about, and they go up there and play that. Plan B is to wait until tomorrow and see what happens between Oakland and Tampa Bay, if that is to happen. Plan C is everybody will see you in spring training.
They don't like that one.
No.
Opposite field for Stewart. And Ramirez races in and makes the catch. 1 out of the 8th. The Cleveland-Seattle scenario would be, should Seattle lose and Oakland win today. Oakland wins the West. Cleveland-Seattle at Safeco Field tomorrow at 2 Pacific. Or should Seattle win and Oakland lose, Oakland then goes to Tampa. They have to lose again. Cleveland-Oakland Tuesday for the wild card. A's had put in some miles. Or both Seattle and Oakland lose today. Oakland, Tampa tomorrow. Should they win, Cleveland, Seattle Tuesday. Should they lose, the headache gets even more intense. Lofton for the second out. Wrapping up that plan C. All of these, of course, contingent on Cleveland hanging on to this win. Should Oakland lose that Tampa game, then Cleveland would be the wild card. And the Oakland-Seattle game would determine the AL West champion and the team that's left out. 2 spots, 3 teams vying for it. The Oakland-Seattle playoff would be considered a regular season game, and the loser would be a half game, 1 loss, worse off than the Indians would be. And so since it's all counted in the regular season by percentage, the Indians would be the wild card.
And when all of that was voted on and thought about, whoever thought that it would all happen? But it has.
Dave Martinez on the right side to Robbie Alomar. A quick 5-pitch 8th inning for Reed. Indians will hit, and then they'll be 3 outs away from remaining in the postseason race. Anticipation continues to build at Jacobs Field. This game, even before it ever got underway, already felt like a postseason game. And with the Indians 3 outs away, about to hit in the bottom of the 8th, leading 9-3, they will face a new pitcher, the 4th of the day for Toronto. And it's left-hander Mark Guthrie.
Guthrie, a veteran, has been around, pitched for the Twins, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Cubs, also Tampa Bay in his 12-year major league career. Good situational type lefty. Good strikeout ratio. Anytime fewer hits than innings, always a good sign.
Bottom third of the order, Tommy, Sandy Alomar, and Cabrera here in the 8th. And they know that they're that close to having taken care of their part of the bargain. Had they lost today, it wouldn't have mattered what happened later today. Oakland and Seattle would have both clinched the postseason. One is the champ, one is the wild card. But Cleveland makes those 2 games a little more pressure intensive when they get underway here in about a half hour or so.
you know, when you look at that lineup and the payroll and all for Cleveland, you say, how can they have put themselves in this situation? Well, they did the first half of the year. But you've got to give them some credit for what they've done the second half of the year.
Thome chops one to Batista, and the throw is not in time to Delgado. Jim Thome 3 for 4 on the day with a homer.
If this is the last game of the year here in Cleveland, these players are wanting to leave it all on the baseball field. Just a little squibber. This is kind of what got the inning going in the bottom of the second when Jim Thome hit the bloop to left field. They exploded for 3 runs and took the lead over Toronto and David Wells. Look at Thome hustling down the line. You don't want to put a clock on that. I mean, that's not going to impress you, but the desire was certainly there.
Safe is all that matters. His 3rd hit, Sandy Alomar takes ball 1. You know, why did they put themselves in this position? How about injuries and illness reasons 1 and 1A? 32 different pitchers.
The injury started right in spring training with their manager.
Hit well to left by Alomar. Way back and gone. Sandy hits his 7th of the year, his 1st since August 4th, and the 9th by the Indians in this series.
His 1st of the year off left-handed pitching, but he's now hitting right at 350 when there's a left-hander on the mound. A little bit surprised to see Guthrie in to face Alomar. Knew he would come in to face Thome, but at 9-3, I guess it didn't matter. It's now 11-3.
His last shot had come against the Angels almost 2 months ago. RBIs 41 and 42. Cabrera bounces one to Batista. And this throw in plenty of time. So the hustle by Thome, squeezing out another run for him. Aboard ahead of the shot by Sandy Alomar.
This team could be real dangerous if they were to be able to play a little bit more in October. And it would put a momentum swing that would be for this club to find themselves. I mean, they've won the divisional titles the last 5 years. They have known they were going to be in the playoffs from day 1 of spring training. They thought that this year. It didn't happen. But when something's been taken away from you, as the postseason looks to have been, well, it always comes back to mean so much more to you. Players think about when, you know, they go on the disabled list. They don't realize how much this game means to them. I don't think Cleveland realizes how much not being in the postseason is going to hurt them.
Might not have to find out this year.
I find it real difficult to believe that Oakland is going to lose to Texas today. Hudson going for 20. The fact that Texas is just so banged up. Rafael Palmeiro is about the only thing left standing down there. They lost Pudge. Gabe Kapler got hot the second half of the year, but he's gone now. Rusty Greer's gone.
Yesterday gave up a club record 23 runs. Oakland scored a club record for them.
What a job Jason Giambi has done. Well, right when you look for somebody to step forward in that MVP race, somebody to step forward and lead your ball club, Giambi took a big step.
On the corner, 3-2 to Lofton. And call strike 3. Guthrie ringing up Lofton. 2 outs in the 8th.
Kenny wanting to get an ovation again this afternoon, as did Sandy Alomar, as did Manny Ramirez, as did Jim Thome here in their last at bats of the regular season. Not happy with that call, but come on, Kenny, it's 11-3.
Vizquel's dribbler fielded by Batista, and the throw is in time, and now the Indians are 3 outs away from staying alive in the American League postseason picture.
On ESPN2, Tim Hudson trying to stretch out. He goes for win number 20 as the A's are in a win and they're in scenario with the Rangers. Meanwhile, Jay Buhner, Mr. Clean, getting set to lead the Mariners against the Angels, both at 4 Eastern. Meanwhile, the Braves are winning. Cards are tied in the race for home field in round 1. Got all that?
I think we finally got everything figured out here, and the Indians are 3 outs away from putting the heat on Seattle and Oakland. If Seattle and Oakland win, they're in. They both would be at 91 wins, and Cleveland is going to finish at 90 and 72. So Cleveland still needing some help, but they do have hope. And the broom's out for the series, and the new pitcher is the left-hander Ricardo Rincon.
Well, another left-handed pitcher for the Cleveland Indians is Chuck Finley, and he was brought over the winter to beat the New York Yankees. Well, Cleveland needs to remember last year they didn't get past Boston. There's a look at Finns. They didn't get past Boston to hook up with the Yankees. They did not get past the Chicago White Sox as far as the division was concerned. And we're going to know in a few hours whether they were able to get past Oakland or Seattle. Look at that. About combined there, 6 of those 12 wins were by that man we're looking at. He did everything he could do.
There's your top of your playoff rotation. If you're an Indian fan, let's see anybody else top that, plus the way they're swinging the bats in this series.
Well, if they could only catch the ball.
Oh, wait, they do that too.
Better than anybody this year.
Carlos Delgado's final at bat of a tremendous season. Threatened the Triple Crown until just the last couple of weeks. Ground ball to Fryman. 1 gone in the 9th. So Delgado will finish 2000 at 41 home runs and 137 RBIs, and over the 340 mark. Took a shot at becoming the first Triple Crown winner since Carlos Stremp's season, 1967 season for the Red Sox. And he'll come up just short. Darren Fletcher, 1 for 3. Gotta ask, for a guy who played in the old Cleveland Stadium, what is it like to look around this place with the feeling that's been here even before the game began? And remind yourself, this is the same city where 42,000 used to be pretty good homestands attendance. I mean, it is a total transformation that's taken place since the opening of this park.
I'll never forget coming over from the Dodgers opening day 1982. 70,000 people at the old ballpark. Everybody telling me what a difference it's going to be coming from the Dodgers. Well, I said, well, there's no difference here. The next day, Lenny Barker against Dave Steve, a great pitching matchup, and 1,500 people.
Well, the opening day was out of the way.
Things have changed.
0-2 pitch popped up by Fletcher. Behind second base, Vizquel, 2 outs.
Dave, there's times when players defensively don't want the ball hit to them. They're struggling. Well, this is just the opposite. Everybody right now wants this ball hit to them. The pitcher wants to strike out. The catcher wants to strike out so that he can catch it. Clinch his fist in the air. Infielders are going to be on their toes. You want to check a guy's range defensively, watch it now. It'll never be better.
Tony Batista, 1 for 3, an infield single. Hits it well to left. Cabrera looks up, watches this one sail out. Home run number 41 for Tony Batista. Postpones the celebration momentarily. Talk about your anticlimaxes.
You needed Michael Jordan in left field to make this play. He's the only one I know that might have been able to elevate and come down with this. Rincon thinking that with 2 outs, the score 11-3, surely he'll take a strike. Yeah, he'll take it out of the ballpark.
So, still 2 gone. And Jose Cruz Jr. the batter. Two strikeouts and a ground out for Cruz. 0 for 3 today, 1 for his last 17. Rincon with a 1-0 pitch. That is lined up the middle of base hit. So the Blue Jays doing a pretty good job postponing the celebration. Rincon retires Delgado, and Fletcher on a ground ball and a pop-up very quietly, and now Charlie Manuel.
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, it's only
waiting for that 3rd out to go into the books, and Todd Green, the DH, will be the batter.
Rincon getting away from his strength, which is that breaking ball. Trying to throw fastballs by people is the reason he struggled since he came to the American League. Go back to your breaking ball, start pitching, and give them what they want.
2 strikeouts, a grounded to 3rd for Green today. One more out, and the Indians will go to 90-72. And tie Oakland and Seattle in the win column, but they will need one of those 2 to lose to keep their postseason hopes alive. Even better for Cleveland, maybe they both lose. One of them has to. 1-1. Hoping for their 6th straight trip to the postseason. Maybe their 3rd American League pennant in that span. Still 1 out to be disposed of here, and now the crowd a little impatient behind Rincon. 2-1 behind Green. .425, 454th consecutive sellout. Indians lead the majors in attendance this year. The 2-1. Chop foul at the plate. 2-2. He's a pitch away.
And a 2-1 breaking ball. You know, the only thing the same here at this ballpark in the old Cleveland, I can still hear that drum.
One thing that didn't change. The 2-2 popped up. And the pitcher Rincon colliding with Fryman, but he hangs on for out number 3, and they're both slow getting up. But the game is over, and the Indians do get the win. They turn out to be a costly win, too. Rincon, Vizquel, Fryman all converging around that weak pop-up on the left side of the infield. And the entire dugout empties to check on the condition after that collision.
Well, Rincon's okay, but I'll tell you what, if Travis Fryman stays down, there's something wrong. That is one tough Texan. The game might be over. Whether the season is over for Cleveland or not, we still don't know. But they did all they could do today, and they did it well.
So a bizarre final out to this 11-4 victory.
Well, neither one of them could hear a thing. Fryman was hollering for it. Vizquel wanted it. Rincon didn't know if they could get there or not. He had his back to him. You try to communicate, but you can't when the crowd is that loud.
It was going to be pure joy in the Indian dugout, turns all of a sudden to concern as they see Rincon and Fryman go down in a heap. The Indians come from behind in all 3 games of this sweep over the Toronto Blue Jays, and now finally up on their feet, making their way into the clubhouse to wait for the action out west and see if Seattle and Oakland will play into their scenario to get to the postseason. Indians do their part. Woodward gets the win. Wells the loss to finish at 20-8. And as of right this moment in the American League, 3 teams going after 2 spots in the postseason, all at 90 victories. Cleveland improves to 90-72. Oakland takes on Texas with a record of 90-70 with a possible makeup tomorrow at Tampa. Seattle takes on Anaheim at 90-71. So a half-game margin right now in the wild card.
Well, Dave, they beat Roger Clemens and Pedro Martinez on the last road trip. They beat David Wells today. This team is playing as well as anybody in baseball right now and would be a serious factor in the postseason if it were to happen.
And if it does happen, again, it's hard to see any team relishing a first-round matchup with a team that's hitting and pitching the way the Cleveland Indians are right now. One of the heroes today, Kenny Lofton, with a double and a run scored in the first, a home run in the fourth. And Kenny, let's talk first of all about that first inning. Toronto gets 2 in their half of the first, and you set the tone right away against David Wells.
Oh, basically that's what I had to do. I had to just try to get on base any way I can, with a walk or base hit or something. And he threw me a slider right over the plate, and I had a chance to hit it pretty good.
Kalo, Rick Sutcliffe here, man. Tremendous job. Right when he got off to that 2-0 lead, almost like you had to be looking for that breaking ball. It was a great pitch, but you just got things going and got the crowd back into the game.
Well, that's at that point, we had to come back and at least score 1 that inning somehow, some way, And as that's the case, he threw that slider, and I had a chance to hit it pretty good.
What about this crowd? How much do they mean to you?
Oh, the crowd is awesome here. They come out every day. They come out, to sell out. I don't know how many games in a row, and it's just the case where the crowd gets into it. And today, they was really into it today.
5 years in a row of sellouts, Kenny, and what they were cheering today. You had a whole slew of highlights. This double in the first inning, over the head of Cruz, and Alomar would drive you in with the first run. And then this ball ripped off the glove of Martinez in the second. They ruled that an error and a sac fly for you, an RBI, and then the shot down the left field line for the home run in the fourth. Now you have to wait for the Seattle and the Oakland results. What are you going to do in the next 3 hours?
I don't know. I think a buddy of mine, we probably go get something to eat and see what happens. But I don't know at this point right now. I don't know.
It's a strange feeling, isn't it?
It is. It's kind of strange. So I'm just kind of sit back, and I don't know if I should watch the game or not or whatever, but I don't know.
You should definitely watch the games. ESPN2.
Oh, okay. I'll do that.
Kenny, what a tremendous year for you. People thought physically you wouldn't be able to make it back as soon as you did. Yet you tie a major league record. 18 runs scored, 18 consecutive games. Are you 100% going into the postseason if needed?
I'm not 100%, but I'm out there every day, and that's all I've been looking at all years. I'm out there every day, and that's all the team asking me to be out there, and that's what I'm going to do.
Anybody playing better than you guys are right now?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm only watching our team. Anybody else, I'm just kind of sitting back and letting them do their thing. But, we're out here doing what we have to do.
Kenny, congratulations. Thank you, and happy viewing the rest of the afternoon.
All right, thank you.
Kenny Lofton, Indians win it and turn their attentions west. They take care of their part of the scenario. For Rick Sutcliffe, Dave Barnett, so long from Cleveland. Back to Larry Beal in the studio.